Hello, we are back with another episode of Click Brand and Beyond. And today we are going to talk a little bit about the beyond part. It's all mysterious. It's all nonsensical sometimes, but we have Nisha, so hopefully it'll be understandable. Nisha, over to you.
Hello, Anoop, and welcome to all our listeners. And excited about going beyond. I think we have been thinking about it for quite a while, but here we are today. So, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about how to talk. We are talking about communication. It's an interesting facet of being human,
Clarity
right?
in communication. Yes.
Clarity comes much later, I feel. I mean, being able to convey something to the other person and they interpreting it the way you want them to interpret it and not misinterpreting it is about 80% of human life. I did not mean it the way you heard it. It was meant something else.
It's
It's constantly going on, and people reading between the lines when there are no lines at all, and people
or
interpreting
lost in
messages.
translation. Or lost in translation.
Yeah, deliberately sometimes. Because
Yes.
yes,
Absolutely. But in fact, that is the intention. Losing it in translation is the intention.
maybe. It depends. I mean, when I say it depends, that itself is a loaded word, right? It depends on what and what type of communication. I like talking about business communication a lot more because the way companies portray themselves out there, advertising and, the jargon filled non apologies that companies put out there. It looks like an apology, sounds like apology, but it's not an apology because they don't own up to any mistakes ever. Crisis management department, the PR department, the internal communication departments, and departments upon departments to twist the words according to your requirements is what business communication has become. But I do believe at some level we have lost the simplicity of how to talk to another person, right? At the end of the day, business is not just B2B, it's also H2H. Human beings are involved. And these layers and layers of, what do you call, hiding of messages as far as possible, legal,
The
necessities.
hoops they create. I mean,
Legal
you
hoops are
have to
created
kind of
later
learn
on,
it.
but the legal department gets involved in a lot of corporate communication, and defensive posturing happens because you want to say certain things, you should not say the certain things, and all the other things that kind of dictate the boundaries within which you have to play.
Yeah.
Makes it very dull and boring. And I believe, yes, multiple people get involved, that is obviously there. And there was a recent a cartoon strip that I read where it started with a very brilliant output by a marketing team, and then that output was taken. Finally the CEO got his hand on it, and it was diluted. And the start in the beginning, they show a message which was like two sentences: "We are the best, work with us." And that was the board. And some juniors say, "This is so boring. We do so many creative things. Why are we not talking about it?" And the senior says, "Hey, why don't you go ahead and make something?" And the junior spends nights and nights and comes up with a very crisp, nice looking message in quotes and all that. And the message is never shown, of course, but then you see a series of panels where first the legal department is sitting on it, and the guy pulling his hair out. Then the HR is sitting, so you have like 10 departments where that paper is gone, and everybody is doing this some kind of action. And then it goes to the CEO's desk and the CMO's desk and everybody, and comes back to the junior, and it says the same thing: "We are the best, work with us." Everything else is removed. And so it's not that creativity doesn't exist in business, but creativity exists in business when it is outsourced to a marketing agency. It's a very interesting thing, right? I mean,
No,
some of
it's
the
not
best.
easy. I know. No, no,
Yeah.
no. See, maybe a big marketing agency who have made their name. I mean, if you bring Piyush Pandey into equation, then everybody listens to him. But for a small agency like mine, the clients come to us, show us some creativity, but they are very clear about how creative they will allow us to be. And in the end result is no creativity at all. Basically, just regurgitating what they wanted to say in the first place anyway.
They are regurgitating. But I'm not saying your agency in particular, Nisha, but most of the creativity in business comes because some marketing agencies' ideas slip through the bureaucratic cracks.
The bureaucratic.
Otherwise, business communication is very boring. And I believe there's also an aspect of clarity, thinking, uh, makes this happen well. See, one of the things for communication is how clear are you with your message? And there are multiple people you have to convince with the same message.
Yeah.
And that is
But it
very difficult.
starts with the purpose, Anoop. Doesn't it start with the purpose? The
purpose
purpose of
for what
why.
and for whom?
The reason of existence. Why does that come? What problem does it solve? Or, the traditional questions. Who are we catering? What is the purpose of whatever we are doing? If they're building a product or if they're building a service, doesn't it start with the purpose of the either the business or the product, or even, you know, what are they trying to do? What is the
So,
meaning in that?
is it an interesting question? Ask, and I work with a lot of these type of businesses where, hey, who do you work with? Everybody who has money can become our customer, and we sell, I know, consulting services, but our services cost $1,000 an hour. Okay, great. So anybody who can afford you is be your customer, is it? No, no, no. So people can draw boundaries with no's, but they cannot put fences with a yes. Do you work with zoos? No. Do you work with veterinarians? No. Do you work with postal departments? No. Do you work with colleges? No. They can say no, but they cannot say yes. This is
To
what we work with.
something, yeah.
Which is an interesting thing, because most businesses, what they're trying to do is draw as big a circle as possible and say, everybody in this circle is our potential client. And as they keep working with various people, they keep saying no, 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 no. They're trying to find that needle, which is a golden client for them, instead of
Or the
defining it and going
sweet
forward.
spot on where to land,
So the
right?
other way of doing it is, okay, I will pick and work with colleges only for the next 1 year. Maybe it'll fail, right? Rather than trying to dip my hand into 20 things and work with them. So the clarity of communication also comes from clarity of thinking. And how can you
Of course,
become,
100%, yeah.
how can you
But that is
thinking?
how do you become clear in thinking? There are many steps involved. It is not an easy place to land. Have a clarity of thinking. Sometimes it's a journey of lifetime because there are so many distractions around us. The conditioning that we go through, what we should be rather than who we are. What am I supposed to do rather than what I want to do? So there we are pulled in so many directions, and then to be able to sit with awareness and self reflect, most of the people, they don't know how to do that. I mean, I did not know for a very, very long time till I learned how to do.
But the answer is 42.
Okay. What
I
is
can see
42?
I can see that reference completely fell flat. So there's a famous book called
You reach 42?
no.
You hit the age
The
42 or
answer
what?
is 42 comes from a very famous book called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I have not read that. Tell me.
It's a sci-fi weird book, it's very fun to read. It's comedy. It's a say 1970s, I believe, era. Kind of captures the human condition, as we call it, right? Very well. So it's about long time ago, some species created a computer which was supposed to
Hmm.
answer the universe, life, and everything,
Hmm.
find answers for it. So the computer went on for millions of years, millions of years. At the end, the day of the answer came up and everybody celebrated. The computer said, the answer is 42. And everybody was very disappointed. And they said, why 42? What is 42? What is the question you have answered? The computer said that, oh, finding the question is a tougher problem. We will need a bigger computer. So let me create a bigger computer. So the computer goes in for computing and comes up with a bigger computer that can find the question for which the answer is 42. And that was kind of one part of the entire story, but it's not a very linear story, by the way. It's weird in its own way. So what is the answer of life and all its mysteries? It's 42. That's as good an answer as any other answer.
Any other answer?
Because what's the
Good
question
one.
you're
I really
asking?
like. Yeah.
What you
And
said, the
that's the
philosophy.
point.
Yeah.
That is the entire point. What's the
What
question
is
I'm
the question
asking?
you're asking? So clarity in thought comes by understanding what are you trying to answer. I was in the research department of a fairly large company. And one thing I was repeatedly told by really good scientists is 80% of finding the solution is clarifying the problem. What are you trying to solve? If you get clarity on that, precisely on that, you have solved the problem 80% of the way. For example, aircraft engines, the jet turbines, the material in that turbine spoils very fast, used to. And so the question is, we need better, more durable material for the blades. They're called blades. They rotate and all, but they are inside. Anyway, they're tiny parts, but very expensive. So the challenge given was we need better material or better blades Great. So the scientists got into this entire thing. What do you mean by a better blade? So that is the wrong question to ask. You're not trying to build a better blade. Before that, you have to figure out why this blade gets spoiled or breaks down. What is the failure? That is one way of thinking, and you will improve that blade which exists. Like Henry Ford has said, if you ask the public, what do you want? And they will say, we want faster horses, because
They wouldn't
that's linear
know.
thinking.
Absolutely.
The objective here is a blade that lasts X amount of hours. Now, a better blade, you know what fails, so you have to create a new blade. What material? Then you are getting into an area where you can seeking solutions. So finding clarity in thinking comes from trying to understand what are you thinking about.
Yeah.
And there is a lost art that can help all of us do this better.
Which is?
It's called using a pencil and a paper, or a pen and a paper, writing, doodling.
That is the best form of software still existing, Anoop. Totally with you on that. But also, when we are thinking, another important thing is to apply the first principles of everything. And I feel, if not really, the clarity does emerge if you. These are the simple questions. These are questions that come from physics. And you just have to apply the law of gravity or the law of magnetism or the impact. And then I think
not everything can be boiled down to it, right? Okay, let's do a thought experiment here. Take a scenario, typical business scenario where communication has to happen, right? One of the questions was asked is, who's the customer? Who's the target audience? Who's the persona? Whatever that might be, right? What are the first principles here? What are the first principles that can be used to answer this question?
The first principles, what is the product we are trying to, is it, what are we selling here? Product or
Let's
a service?
not take a product. Let's take a service, because products are easier to find out. Services are a little more intangible, right? Let us say somebody who's a good photographer, that's a skill. Or let's say creates photos. Yeah, whatever. They can create really good graphics, right?
No, you have to be very clear, Anoop. See, if the person is a photographer or if a person is a creator.
Let's say photographer. That's easier for it to imagine.
So what are the first principles?
What are the first principles to be applied to answer the question, who is the client?
Who is the client? So is the photographer good in portraiture, or is he good in nature? Or is the photographer good in
portraits?
Candid?
Let's say portraits.
Portraits. So who is the client? So a client could be people who are in corporate or people who want family portraits done. Because if the person is a portraiture.
What is the first principle that can be applied here? From which field? Of course, physics is the ultimate, but then we don't have to go to physics in this case.
The first principles that will be applied is, we have already applied the first principle. What is a photographer good at?
No,
if he's into
that's not a first
then
principle, right? That's a skill question. And businesses are not run by skills. I'm not trying to put you on a spot, but then this is...
No, I'm thinking. I'm thinking.
Yes.
What are the first principles that we will apply for a person who is a photographer and who specializes in portraiture? That is a difficult one, but I'm still thinking. What do you think?
We have to go back to what is the purpose of this entire exercise. You're talking about first principle. The purpose of this exercise to find who's the target audience is to improve the business so that target audience can be better targeted. The group of people that we want to work with can be better targeted. Now, for a business, this photographer is running a business. Is not a freelancer, right? It's a business. Even a freelancer is running a business. So the business, first principles of any business starts with supply and demand. What is being supplied? The skill of photography, portrait photography. The supply is huge in the market. It's not, the numbers are not small. Where is the demand? The demand is in the modeling industry, but supply-demand gaps are more or less filled. There's less demand, more supply, and all that commoditization is there. Where else? In corporates, to take corporate photos, family day photos, bosses photos, and things like that. Beyond that, politics, of course. What are the fields in which demand for portraits exist? These are the places. Of course, you can do B2C also, family photos and whatnot. Now, out of all these particular fields that you have, where is there a supply-demand gap where you can enter and fulfill that? I don't have the answer because I'm not studying that. But then let's say there is a gap somewhere, right? Let's say, okay, corporate bosses profile creation is a gap, right?
Yeah.
All that great. But the question then comes back to, relationships. Okay, you have answered the economic questions. Now you have to
Hmm.
step down and answer, okay, I will go to all the SMEs or mid to large size companies and approach the CEOs and, tell them
Hmm.
that I'll make a fantastic portrait of them. But why? That's you are selling your skill. What is the outcome they want? So again, I have boiled it down from the economic principle to now a relationship principle or a demand principle. What is the demand?
Hmm.
Again, let's go back to the economics. Sorry. What is the demand? Is it just for a portrait? Do people want a portrait so they can put it on their phone? Not really. Everybody carries a camera with them today, right? The smartphone is nothing but a camera. First, communication device second. So everybody has a camera. Why do you need a specialist photographer to come and take a photo? Your entire premise starts collapsing because you can't build a business on that single skill anymore. The demand is
Hmm.
there for thought leadership. The demand is there for publicity. The demand is there for PR. The boss wants to be known as somebody. A little bit of narcissistic, self and other things, right?
Hmm.
So your business premise shifts now. There is a supply demand gap. Photography can be a mainstay, imagery can be a mainstay, the person can be a mainstay, the personality can be a mainstay, provided you bundle your efforts along with other things like social media or PR or books or print media, etc. Where you take this person and push them out there in the world. That is the outcome most people want. They just don't want a photograph anymore because that's not lucrative enough. So when you start boiling it down from supply demand perspective, you have to weigh both sides, right? What are you supplying? Where is the demand? Can you add on something? Can the skill become a business, an outcome? Because people don't want skills, they want outcomes.
So you are still, but then you still applied the first principle, right?
I did to a certain extent, but the thinking has to start from who it impacts, not from what you give. The direction changes. The market is the one determining how businesses will work.
No, so this has kind of moved into many directions. Are you not saying that the photographer is not clear of the purpose? He's clear. He wants to take photographs and he wants to do portraiture. What you are essentially saying is how can he apply? But that is another problem to solve.
What I'm saying is a photographer is thinking as a freelancer, not like a business. So if you want to have a business, then you have to think like a business. And businesses are based on supply and demand. And supply demand demands what type of supply, what type of demand.
That wasn't the question. He was just
Exactly. You were
answering.
asking a wrong question. See, that is what I'm saying. Getting clarity on what are you trying to solve for is the first step. The question was, okay, here is a photographer. He or she wants to build a business. But a photographer in today's time will find it extremely difficult to build a business because supply demand gaps have been filled by multiple other choices. Therefore, you have to offer something more that the market wants as an outcome. And your skill has to be one piece of that now. Therefore, the understanding is that the question has evolved. The question is no longer how can I become a better photographer or how can I sell my photography skill. The question has transformed to how can I build a business using my photography skills.
So then we have moved very far away from our initial premise. The initial premise was how do we resolve a problem? And I said using first principles. And then you displayed using the first principles of marketing. And
Business
then
itself, economics.
a business, economics. And then it became a different question from there.
Yes. As I said earlier, right, beginning that
So that is the
80% of problem
brainstorming.
solving is finding the right question to answer. If you answer the wrong question, you will get stuck. So the right question
Yeah.
here is no longer about how brilliant of a photographer am I and how can I build a
Yeah.
business
Then it
around
just.
me. It is different. If
So
you're
to
not a famous
conclude,
photographer,
hmm.
if you're not a
So to
famous
conclude,
photographer, you can't build a business. Sorry. Would
right.
you?
No. Fair now. So now just to conclude, it means that we have to keep on asking the question till we arrive at the purpose. Yes or no?
So thinking is hard. It's not easy. So you cannot always center the thinking on you. It cannot be egocentric or self-centered questions that you ask.
Self-centered. Yes.
You have to see the impact of what you're asking. Where, what, whom, why, when, five whys and how and things like that. There are a lot of tools that are available to think, to step by step, to detach yourself, you being the center of the question to something else being the center of question. It is not necessarily always how do I do it. It's how can I enable something. It can also be how can I help somebody. It can also be how can I impact something. Building a
Yeah.
business is not about you at all. Building a business is about how maximum value to maximum number of people at the maximum profits.
Yeah.
If you cannot do all these things together, and this is external to you, you are here and this is where it is, right? If you cannot offer something of value here, your business collapses. You being a brilliant writer, a crafter, a painter, a photographer does not really matter because nobody is asking for that. People are asking for things which requires your skill, but not just your skill.
Just
It's a bundle of things. So offer value, and that
True.
value definition changes.
But then again, I think that how do we find out what is the right value or the true value or appropriate value? Now,
I
that
will
is
go
a
back to
problem
what you said,
solving.
Nisha. I will agree that first principles matter, but understanding what principles to apply also matter. In this case, it's
100%.
economic principles of economics, right? Not principles of physics, because physics matters in rocket science, maybe in boat building, in car building, etc. But when you're offering a service, it is a principle of economics. Any business runs on principles of economics first. Next comes how you offer and solve it. So if you do not
True.
have an understanding of supply and demand and what you're offering, you don't see a problem worth solving, or people are not willing to pay for that problem being solved, you don't have a business. You have a hobby.
Yeah, that's true.
So
A lot
that
of
was a
business
short
owners.
session on thinking about thinking. And
It's not that short, actually, Anoop, is the same time because it was such an interesting topic. But I love this whole journey to beyond. And I
so
think we should just do this more
we'll
often.
come back next time and try to solve some hard maths and physics problem. I'm kidding. Nobody wants to see us solving physics and maths problems. But anywho, thanks, Nisha. Thanks for being here. Till next time. Bye.